Hey, Squatch Senior back here with another episode on this overhaul of this Super M engine here. Been cleaning some parts up, kind of doing some investigative stuff here. Not sure if I've really confidently found out what's causing my knock yet. Anyway, I've got the head cleaned up. I do have these stands I make up. I just use this beeline strut. I take some all thread rod. It's adjustable with a nut here. And if this is the stands to hold the head. If you're off center, you can move back and forth. Works good for everything. If you got a rod too big to fit into one of your head holes, you can go with a smaller rod, easy to change. I keep all this stuff with my valve grinding equipment. Kind of looking at number 3 here. As you can see in the past, got some scuffing on both sides of the pin. Now that's kind of unusual in my experience with these things, why that did that. And some guys have suggested possibly a bent rod. That's something I can't check here, but I will be sending all these rods in to have them reconditioned and make sure the bores here are true. I'll have new bushings put in the pins, everything else. I have yet to find a pin that's been loose in here. Everything, I haven't mic'd them yet, but they're tight. I mean, there's just no play at all in these things. Looking at number 3 cylinder, you can kind of pick out where the scuffing, hopefully you can see in this light, where some of the scuffing has been and stuff. And kind of a little bit on this side, but most of the scuffing is just occurring probably in this top inch or so of the piston. Now you get on this side, you can see some really dark coloration. Now whether that's just staining or kind of in a way looks like it could have been hot in that area and it kind of discolored the sleeve. So not sure if that could cause my knock or not. Everything is been in spec. I mean, as you can see, here's number 2. And you can see it just, just to clean up the ridge, it's just in some places a hit and some places a dent in there. It just kind of weird to me how this thing is working. And the carbon on these, I mean, there's very little, as you can see on the, I don't know if you can pick it out, but on the oil rings, I mean, they're almost sharp yet, but it seems like excessive carbon buildup on top of these pistons. Not sure if that's maybe a running rich on the carburetor settings, if it's the fuel. I've been using a 91 octane fuel in these things. Maybe it's a temperature the way it's running. I did check my spark plug, and I am running Autolite 388s, which are a fairly hot plug. Looking at the carbon buildup, I did do a little cleaning on number 3. I see it's got the hardened seats installed already, and I'm sure the valves and the guides were replaced on the last overhaul, because this thing, there's no slack. The valve stem wear and stuff is very minimal, if at all. And you can see in number 1, hopefully you can pick it out, number 1 and number 2 intakes, number 2 especially, it's got a lot of carbon buildup on the intake. I didn't see any indication where I have a valve leaking. It seems like all the seats are really good and making contact as it should. So anyway, I'm going to get this thing put up on these stands and probably start doing some cleaning on these chambers and stuff and getting this thing prepped for machine shop. And usually what I do, I got these brushes I use in there. They're kind of designed for carbon removal and stuff, and they work real good on these heads, stuff like that. So anyway, I'll get this on the stands and we'll get busy cleaning this thing up. Okay, got this thing set up on the stands. I like the stability, plenty good for the work I'm doing here. Right now I'm just kind of scraping some of this carbon off top of the cylinder head here. Then I'll get into taking a wire brush and we'll get inside the combustion chambers and get them cleaned up. And then after I'm all done with that, I will take a piece of sandpaper on a sanding block and I'll clean this whole head surface and all the gasket surfaces up. Okay, we'll just kind of blow that out. I like to do my work outside, keeps the mess out of the shop. Nice breeze blowing today, nice day, just kind of a nice day to be outside anyway. Okay, we get the wire brush going. Okay, this wire brush method works good on cast iron heads. You don't want to do this on aluminum heads. They're a whole different situation to work on there. Even sanding the top surface, take it to a machine shop, let them guys do it. They're equipped to do that and all that stuff. So anyway, just my suggestion to you guys if you think you can do this on the automotive line. But like cast iron heads, it works good. No worries there. They'll be in there, they'll check this for square and flatness. It's got to be within a few thousandths from kitty corner, back and forth and everything, just to make sure the head gasket seals properly. Kind of just on a visual, I see no place head gasket's been leaking to cause me problems. So let's finish cleaning this thing up. Squad Senior back again. A little project here for this part of the episode. I'm going to take this radiator off the front bolster of this M. What I've done, I figured it'd be easier to take off since I got it off the tractor, easier to get it parts. I've got it supported on a 2x4, help me keep from beating it up too bad. Projects I got to start with is cleaning the mouse nest out. You can see, kind of had it pretty well packed full. I noticed when I took it off, part of it fell out already. So anyway, it was a nice home for them for a while. And you get in here, not sure if you can see, but this is the bolts I got to access. There's two of them, one there, one over here, covered up with a mouse nest. Looking at them, they are quite rusted in there. This could be quite a trick, but I see it's been off before, because there's generally a cotter pin through that castellated nut that's no longer there, which in a way could make the job a little bit easier because I don't have to hassle getting that out of there. Anyway, let's get started getting this thing cleaned out and see if we can get these loose. Might have to put a little heat on them. We'll see what we end up with here first, so stay tuned. Okay, let's see if we get some of this nest out of here. Yeah, full of stuff. Yeah, I like to get this pretty clean. If I got to use a torch in here, I don't need any extra fire. Okay, got some wrenches here. We'll see if anything comes loose or if we're going to need heat. Oh man, it won't budge, that one. Oh, that one let loose. Try this one again. You be careful, they're fastened into the bottom of that radiator, so you definitely don't want to twist them off if you can help it. Well, she's going. If it comes loose, that's promising. I'm going to get some penetrating oil and throw in them threads and stuff before I go any farther. That a lot of times will help. Get the mess out of the way. Yeah, that makes all the difference in the world. Okay, looks like they got a stud in there, which is okay. I don't care where it comes apart. It's easier to fix if I have to. Okay, and this one come apart. The nut come off that one. Now let's see if that'll slide out of there. You can see the radiator on this side. You got rubber bumpers between the radiator and this casting here. And we go over here, you can see they're not in real good condition, so I'll be making ones new ones of that. You can see over here, this is a stud that did come out, and you can see how smashed that is. Over here, you can see inside here, they've got a cast-in piece that this threaded stud goes into, and what they do is they rivet it in here. Looks like they solder it, and then they got that whole thing soldered. And what it is, it's a sealed piece in there where these go in, so you don't have to worry about sealing this thread from antifreeze working out. It's already cast in and stuff, so that's kind of nice there. Radiator needs a few little issues done to it. You can see the side plate here is loose. It's usually soldered in. They'll probably fix that at the radiator shop. Got a few dings. They'll check them out. Some of the cooling fins are folded over and stuff. They've got a comb where they can straighten that out. Gets better airflow through. They'll probably clean this out. You can see a lot of dirt in here that needs to be cleaned out. But actually, this radiator isn't too bad. I've seen them a whole lot worse than this. Especially when they start seeping and leaking antifreeze, they'll collect dirt and just pack it in there. Come over here, the overflow tube. Loose off the neck there. I'll have them solder that back on stuff. So yeah, I got hold of the radiator shop. They said bring her on up, so I think tomorrow this is going to be my project for today. So thanks for watching. Okay, I'm just going to do a quick rundown on what I found on this thing before I start taking parts to the machine shop. Starting with the crankshaft, everything was in spec. Number 2 main, which is a thrust, that was right at the top end of spec. Everything had 2,000 over bearings. I'm not sure if the crank was ground 2,000 over or not, but I don't see anything astronomically wrong or excessive wear into any of these bearings. Number 2 thrust, you can see a little bit of, if you look close, you can see some embedding of particles. That's normal. I do have kind of a little squiggly line right there. Not even sure what caused that, but that's not enough to make a knock. I could not find anything on this crankshaft that I'm confident making a knock. The oil pump hasn't been gone through yet. This thing did run low oil pressure after warming up. So I'm not sure on the oil pump. I got to go through that yet. I got to check that for clearances, see if that's bypassing in the pump, which is causing my problem. But so far as the crankshaft is concerned, I see nothing that would cause my knock on that. Okay, covering pistons and sleeve here. I've already covered this pretty extensively already. You guys kind of know what's going on. Anyway, I am going to take the rods into the machine shop. They'll check the bore for roundness, and they'll check the rod for straightness. You don't want that rod bent one way or the other. That could cause this with a bent rod, especially if it's bent this way. It's going to scuff heavy on top. But seeing how there's a short skirt, I don't see any scuffing on the bottom because you have no contact. So you do get probably more scuffing because you got a pretty short area in there for it to run on. And like you say, I got you can see a little dark spot here that I don't see in any of the others. One of the viewers did suggest that maybe this got a little ridge up here that seats in the head, that maybe they didn't get this cleaned out good enough in the block and a little piece of dirt fell out and maybe pinched this liner a little tighter. That's a possibility. Something I never noticed if that was the case or not. I did go through over here onto the block. I've got my bore gauge here. I did check for straightness. You just put that in, center it out. It's got slides and everything, and you just you can check for straightness up and down. You can check for out around. You just turn it, and you just see what it is. I checked every one of them, and every one there's no taper, and they're within 1/1000 each way. So as far as the block being good, I have confidence in that being good. Anyway, that's probably the best indicator I can find for a knock is that piston, and I'm still not 100% sure that's the case of my knock. Moving on to the camshaft, some of my viewers also suggested that possibly the cam bearings are loose, it could cause a knock. They say that does happen on these fairly often. I did check everything out. Everything on the cam is right on spec on the journals, every one of them. I'm sure this cam has been replaced by looking at it, just even by the evidence I found inside. You can see a little bit of wearing right here, and you come over here to the cover. You can also see where it's kind of been wore in. There's a place right in here, you can see up there, which to me indicates that there was an issue with this cam being bad in the past. It has been said that originally these cams came out with a right-hand thread, and a later conversion they took them to left-hand thread, because with the right-hand thread this nut would have a tendency to loosen and everything and start causing problems. Now the bearings on this engine I am sure weren't replaced when the engine overhaul come in, because right now I'm running on number 1. My spec is running way out of spec. I've got it written down here. As you can see, I like to take a lot of notes when I'm taking stuff apart. But anyway, number 1, top end clearance is 0.0035, and I mic'd out 0.0047, which puts me at a 0.0012 over spec, which is to the way loose side. That's out of spec on the loose side. Number 2 journal come in at 0.0034, so I'm like 1/10,000th in spec. And number 3, which is the last one, come in at 0.0016, which I am right at the low end of running clearance. So anyway, my number 1 definitely loose, over just a little over 1,000th clearance on that one. I don't think that's been enough to cause a knock. Very possible, I don't know. You can see, like I say, you can see different areas where the thing wore. I'm sure it's not this one. My in play specs are 0.003 to 0.011. I had 0.0055, which I was right in the mid-range of spec. So that is right in spec, would not cause enough looseness to make all these scarring marks you see. And just looking at the gears, I don't see any indication on the outside that this has been causing problems. Now, is there other issues here? You can see the idler gear. You can see where that's been running, not excessive amount of wear. There is a bushing or a Babbitt bearing in there also, and that is like 1,000th over spec. So is that enough to cause a knock? Or that also runs the hydraulic pump and distributor. Now I know my hydraulic pump is leaking oil into the where the distributor fastens to the pump. Is there something in maybe that hydraulic pump? So anyway, I'm still not 100% sure that loose cam bearings is causing my problem. The pump will be sent into a hydraulic repair shop. I know it needs seals. That's going to have to be really done for sure. And he'll probably tell me what kind of condition the pump is in. Seemed to have plenty of power. I see no indication that I had a problem with the pump, but we'll see what the guy there says. Yeah, one thing, last thing on the camshaft here. I do have the parts books for the M and the Super M. So I went into them. I was checking out all of my camshaft specs and stuff, and camshaft part number for in both books was a 48196DX. Okay, so I got checking over on the cam here, and they have a lot of numbers stamped in the end. Not sure if you guys can read them, but there is a 48196DB in there. So is that, to me, the DX on the end would be the camshaft that had the right hand thread, and the updated crankshaft that they put in with the left hand thread ends in a DB. I don't know, maybe some of you guys out there could enlighten me on that. So anyway, that's what I found out so far. I might do some more research on this cam just to see, but I haven't found anything any place yet indicating a different type of thread on that cam gear. So like I say, guys, got any suggestions, more than welcome. Okay, let's move on. Or another possibility, some viewers are suggested is possibly that broken nose cone has caused the problem. Now, as you can see, it's wore that way. You can see where it's kind of wore that way. I see a little wearing there, so you got there, 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 and there. So this thing has flopped around in there. But when we found this piece laying in there, it was laying right down in here. You can kind of see how it's been embedded, and it was embedded in that grease. We had to pick it out of there. It wasn't sitting around in there loose. So I'm not 100% sure that a broken nose cone has caused my problems, but you can definitely see that thing's been rubbing a long time to wear that much, and the flywheel shows no indication of wear at all. So anyway, I'm still not 100% sure that is my knocking problem. Anyway, it kind of reminds me of a story that I had when I first started working. Guy brought a late 70s GMC pickup into the shop, knocking. It had less than 14,000 miles on it. When I started it up to run it in the shop, I didn't know if I dare run it long enough to blow up before I got it in there. Anyway, by the time I got it in there, it's only a two-wheel drive. Easy job to just drop the pan. Drop the pan. I spec'd with plastic gauge all the main bearings, all the rod bearings, and everything was perfect in spec. No knock, no indication that would be causing a knock. Some of them GM motors did have that push rod to the fuel pump that sometimes caused some problems. Nothing looked bad there. So I figured, well, I just put everything back in, torqued the bearings down, bolted the pan up again, never even put a new gasket on it because I was only going to run that long enough to see if I could indicate where the knock was. No knock. It totally disappeared. And for the life of that pickup, it never did cause a knock problem before. And even with the old pan gasket in, it never leaked a drop of oil. So that was another mystery to me. I have no clue in the world what that is, and this is kind of another one of the mystery things you run into once in a while. If you guys have any suggestions, feel free to comment on it. I read all your comments. I'm not real good at answering them, but we will definitely look at them. It gives me more ideas of what to look at. But anyway, I'm going to get into the head here too. It's one last thing. It's all cleaned up. I see no indication we have problems with the head or anything. It's looking real good in there. It has all the hard seats put in. I've cleaned the valves up. Got a little bit of pitting on the exhaust a little bit. Otherwise, the margins are good. No indication the valves are bad. I did check all the guides out, back and backside. Everything is tight. I mean, they're just, you can't even hardly wiggle them around in there. So anyway, I'm gonna take all this stuff down to the machine shop, see what they find. I'll have this head checked for warpage or whatever. They'll probably service it. Manifold area looks plenty good. I mean, this thing cleaned up nice. Most of the major work has been done on that. I did notice that every part that was put into this thing was an IH part on the last overhaul. So whether they ground the crank last time or not, I'm not real sure, but I am feeling a lot of roughness and stuff. I don't like that. That's too rough for my liking. So we'll get the light around here where we can see a little better. But yeah, you can feel roughness on all of these. So that's not smooth enough for me. So that will be all fixed up too. So anyway, like I say, guys, any suggestions you can think of? I think about all a guy can do is get this thing all put back into spec, put her together, and cross our fingers it's going to work. Thanks for watching.